My name is Maya, and I'm 36 years old. I work as a fourth grade teacher at an elementary school right here in Atlanta, Georgia. For 9 years, I believed I had found my soulmate. I believed my husband cherished me. I believed he wanted to build a future with me, protect me, honor me until we were old and gray. But every single morning for 7 months, he looked directly into my eyes and handed me pills that were systematically destroying me from the inside. And I smiled. I thanked him. I swallowed them with my morning tea and kissed him before driving to work. I gave him my complete trust. That trust nearly ended my life. Before we dive deep into this, if you're feeling this story, go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me where you're tuning in from and what you're doing right now. For real, I love connecting with y'all. Now let me break down exactly how the man I loved more than anything in this world tried to erase my existence without a single soul knowing. 7 months before my entire world shattered, my life looked picture perfect to anyone watching. Marcus and I had been married for 9 years. We met at a medical conference in Savannah when I was 27 and he was 30. He was smooth, accomplished, driven. He worked as a medical device sales representative, constantly traveling between hospitals across Georgia and Alabama, closing deals, building connections. He was exceptional at what he did, truly exceptional. He understood people, how to earn their confidence, how to persuade them that what he offered was precisely what they needed. I should have paid closer attention to those skills. Our marriage wasn't flawless, but whose marriage is? We had our friction points like every couple does. He traveled constantly for work. I brought home mountains of assignments to grade every evening. We stayed busy, but we carved out time for us. Date nights every Thursday, Saturday morning breakfast at our favorite diner, small traditions that made us feel connected. I was in love with him. Lord, I was deeply in love with him, and I genuinely believed he felt the same way about me. It began in April 20 to end to be precise. I remember the date because it was 2 days after our anniversary. Marcus had surprised me with dinner at this stunning rooftop restaurant overlooking Centennial Park. We'd had cocktails, shared peach cobbler, laughed about my students' wild personalities. It felt intimate, meaningful. The following morning, I woke up to Marcus standing beside our bed holding a glass of water and a small amber bottle. Morning. Gorgeous, he said, flashing that smile that used to make my stomach flutter. I picked something up for you. I rubbed my eyes confused. Another anniversary gift? Something like that. He sat on the edge of our bed and twisted open the bottle. These are premium wellness supplements. I've been researching them through my company contacts. They're designed specifically for Black women in their 30s. Energy boost, metabolism support, hormonal regulation, everything. I thought they could help you feel even better. I raised an eyebrow. I feel perfectly fine. I know, baby. But you've mentioned being worn down lately. You've said it several times. Remember 2 weeks ago when you dozed off during that documentary we were watching? And those migraines you've been getting? He shook 2 capsules into his palm and extended them toward me. Just give them a shot for me. I want you operating at your absolute best. Looking back now with clear eyes, I can identify every warning sign. The way he'd already opened the bottle before asking. The way he didn't hand me the label to read. The way he stood there monitoring me, ensuring I actually swallowed them. But in that moment, all I saw was my husband being considerate, being loving, wanting to care for me. So I took them. I swallowed those 2 capsules with the water he brought, and I gave him a genuine smile. Thank you, babe. That's really thoughtful. His smile expanded. Anything for my queen. I'll make sure you take them every morning, okay? They only deliver results if you stay consistent, and he did. Every single morning for the next 7 months, Marcus ensured I took those pills. It became woven into our daily routine. Coffee percolating, breakfast waiting on the counter, Marcus presenting me with my supplements alongside a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice. Sometimes he'd kiss my temple after I swallowed them. Sometimes, he'd watch me for just a moment too long, like he was confirming they went down. But I never questioned it. Why would I? He was my husband. He worked in the medical field close enough anyway. He understood medications and health products. I trusted him without reservation. The first couple of weeks, I didn't register much difference. Maybe I felt slightly more drained, but I'd experienced fatigue before. Teaching 4th graders is demanding, even on the best days. 26 9-year-olds who all require your focus, your patience, your energy from 7:45 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. Then grading papers, creating lesson plans, responding to parent emails. I assumed the exhaustion was simply part of my profession, but then it intensified. By early May, I was barely making it through each day. I'd wake up after 9 hours of sleep and still feel like I'd gotten maybe 3. My alarm would sound and I'd have to force my body out of bed, feeling like I was carrying concrete blocks on my shoulders. I started consuming more coffee. 3 cups turned into 5, then 6. It made no difference. By noon, I'd be struggling to keep my eyelids open. I started spending my lunch period locked in my car, just so I could rest my eyes for 15 minutes without my students witnessing it. Marcus noticed. Obviously, how could he not? I was passed out on the sofa by 7:30 most evenings. Some nights, I'd sit down to review student work and wake up 3 hours later with my cheek pressed against the dining table and ink smudged across a kid's book report. "Baby, you're completely wiped out," he'd say, his voice layered with concern. "Maybe you need to schedule a doctor's visit." "I'm okay," I'd respond. "It's just been an intense school year. Summer vacation is almost here. You're still taking your supplements, right?" He'd ask. Every time. Always checking. "Yes, Marcus. Every morning, exactly like you told me." "Perfect. Stay consistent. Your body is probably still adapting. These things require time to take effect, so I kept taking them because he kept providing them. And I kept trusting him completely." By late May, it transcended just the fatigue. I started experiencing severe concentration issues. I'd be mid-lesson and completely blank on what I was teaching. I'd stand there facing my class, dry erase marker in hand, staring at the board like I'd lost the ability to form sentences. The kids would snicker and I'd play it off, make a joke about teachers needing summer break too. But internally, I was terrified. This wasn't normal behavior. This wasn't simply being tired. I started losing my memory. Small details initially where I'd place my phone, whether I'd armed the security system, what I'd prepared for dinner the night before. Then more significant things. Parent-teacher meetings I'd scheduled, professional development sessions, grade deadlines. One afternoon, I completely forgot I was supposed to supervise afternoon dismissal, and the assistant principal had to track me down in my classroom. I apologized profusely, mortified and bewildered. I'd never been scattered before. I'd always been organized, dependable. Now I felt like my mind was trapped in dense fog. My coworkers started taking notice too. Jasmine, who taught 5th grade down the hall, approached me one afternoon in late May. "Maya, you doing all right?" she asked, her expression filled with concern. "You seem different lately." "I'm good," I lied, forcing brightness into my voice. "Just exhausted." "It's beyond exhaustion," she pressed. "You seem detached, unfocused. Last week you walked straight past me in the teacher's lounge and didn't respond when I spoke to you." I had zero recollection of that. I couldn't remember seeing her at all. "I'm sorry, Jazz. I've just been dealing with a lot mentally." She studied my face carefully. "Maybe you should request some personal days, or see a doctor." "You don't look healthy, sis." I promised her I would. I didn't follow through. Instead, I went home and told Marcus what Jasmine had observed. I expected him to be worried. I expected him to insist I book an appointment immediately. And he did, sort of. "She's absolutely right," he said, wrapping his arms around me. "You do look run down. Let's get you in to see Dr. Williams next week. But keep taking your supplements, okay? Don't skip those. You need those nutrients, especially feeling this drained." So I scheduled an appointment with my primary physician at Emory Medical Center. It took 3 weeks to get an appointment slot. 3 more weeks of swallowing those pills every morning. 3 more weeks of feeling like I was gradually fading away. The emotional shift started in early June. I've never been a particularly volatile person. I'm generally composed, patient, positive. You have to maintain that energy to teach elementary school. But suddenly my emotions were completely unpredictable. I'd start weeping over nothing significant. A touching commercial would have me sobbing uncontrollably. I snapped at my students for the first time in my entire teaching career, yelling at a sweet little girl for humming while she worked. I apologized instantly, horrified at my own behavior. But the damage was already done. The expression on her face, the way she recoiled, it shattered my heart. At home, my behavior was even worse. I'd explode at Marcus over the most trivial things. He'd forget to take out the trash and I'd lose it completely, screaming at him about respect and responsibility. Then minutes later I'd be crying hysterically and apologizing, completely confused about why I'd reacted that way. He was incredibly patient with me, so understanding. He'd hold me while I cried and reassure me that everything was okay, that everyone goes through difficult periods, that we'd navigate this together. Just keep taking your supplements, he'd remind me gently. And we'll see what Dr. Williams recommends. My appointment finally arrived on June 25th. I sat in that cold examination room and explained everything to Dr. Williams: the crushing fatigue, the memory lapses, the emotional volatility, the concentration problems. She listened attentively, asked detailed questions, checked my blood pressure, examined my eyes and reflexes. Your vitals appear normal, she said, entering notes into her tablet. But I want to run comprehensive blood work, to be thorough. We'll evaluate your thyroid function, your nutrient levels, your hormones. Meanwhile, I want you prioritizing sleep quality. No electronics an hour before bedtime. Maintain a consistent sleep schedule. Consider trying meditation or gentle stretching. I nodded, feeling increasingly frustrated. I was already sleeping 10, 11 hours nightly. I couldn't possibly sleep more. Are you currently taking any prescription medications? She asked. Any supplements or vitamins? Just wellness supplements, I told her. My husband purchased them for me. He works in medical sales. What specific type of supplements? I'm not entirely sure. He manages it. He gives them to me every morning. She gave me a look I couldn't quite interpret then. I'd like to review what's in them. Can you bring the bottle to your follow-up visit? Absolutely, I agreed. The blood work results came back completely normal. Everything checked out perfectly according to the laboratory tests. Dr. Williams suggested it might be stress-related. She recommended I consider speaking with a therapist, possibly explore anti-anxiety medication. I left that appointment feeling completely defeated. According to medical science, nothing was wrong with me, but I felt worse than I'd ever felt in my entire life. Marcus picked me up from the medical center. I'd been too exhausted to drive myself there. What did Dr. Williams say? He asked, as I collapsed into the passenger seat. Nothing's medically wrong. Blood work looks perfect. She thinks it might be psychological stress. I pressed my forehead against the cool window glass. Drained, despite having done virtually nothing all day except sit in a doctor's office. See, I told you, he said smoothly. You're just pushing yourself too hard with work. Summer vacation starts in 2 weeks. You'll bounce back once you get proper rest. He reached over and squeezed my hand reassuringly. Did you mention your supplements to her? Yeah, she asked what kind they were. His grip on my hand tightened almost imperceptibly. What did you tell her? That I wasn't sure. That you handle them. I turned to look at him directly. She wanted me to bring the bottle to my next appointment. I'll make sure you have it, he said, without hesitation. But there was something subtle in his tone. Something I couldn't identify in that moment. Looking back now with perfect clarity, it was fear, pure fear. He was terrified I was going to discover the truth. Summer vacation finally started and I genuinely believed things would improve. I believed rest would restore me, that sleeping late and eliminating work stress would bring me back to myself. But everything got dramatically worse. So much worse. Without the structure and routine of my teaching schedule, I started sleeping 13, 15 hours daily. I'd wake up at p.m. feeling drugged and disoriented. I'd stumble to the kitchen where Marcus would have coffee and lunch prepared, along with my pills. I'd take them automatically, grateful that he was caring for me while I felt so terrible. Then I'd spend the remainder of the day on the couch, barely conscious, struggling to follow the plot of whatever show was playing on television. Marcus started working remotely more frequently, claiming he wanted to monitor me. At the time, I interpreted it as caring and protective. Now I understand he was surveilling me, ensuring his plan was progressing, making absolutely certain I took those pills every single day without fail. Friends stopped reaching out, not because they'd abandoned me, but because I stopped responding to anyone. I'd see their text messages and consider replying, but it seemed impossibly exhausting. Forming coherent thoughts, typing responses, maintaining conversations, it all felt beyond my capabilities. My phone would vibrate with notifications, and I'd just stare blankly at the screen, unable to make myself care about anything. My father called in early July. I didn't answer. He called again the following day and again. Finally, Marcus answered my phone and spoke with him. "She's doing fine, James," I heard him say from the kitchen. "Just really exhausted. You know how demanding teaching is during the academic year. She's using summer to recover and recharge. I'm taking excellent care of her." A pause in the conversation. "Sure, of course you're welcome to visit. Let me discuss it with Maya first, and I'll get back to you." He came into the living room, where I was sprawled on the couch, half conscious. "Your pops wants to come visit this weekend." "Okay," I mumbled, my eyelids, already drooping, closed again. "You don't want him seeing you like this though, right? He'll just worry unnecessarily. Let's wait until you're feeling stronger." "Okay, okay." My father, James, is 64 years old. He retired from his position as a pharmacist in Savannah 4 years ago. He's always been fiercely protective of me, especially after my mother passed away from cancer when I was 21. He's the only family I have left. We usually talk at minimum twice weekly, see each other monthly. But as June melted into July, and July dragged forward endlessly, I barely communicated with him at all. Marcus would intercept my phone calls, provide him with updates, explain that I was napping or in the shower or simply not feeling well enough to talk. I barely remember July existing. The entire month is a hazy blur in my memory. I know Marcus's sister visited at some point. I vaguely recall sitting at our dining table while she and Marcus conversed, me nodding along mechanically without processing a single word being spoken. I remember her looking at me with visible worry, asking if I was feeling all right. Marcus answering on my behalf, explaining I was just tired, just needed extended rest. August arrived. I should have been preparing for the upcoming school year, planning curriculum, organizing my classroom supplies, reviewing new teaching standards. Instead, I could barely lift myself off the couch for more than 20 minutes at a time. My principal called to check in, ask if I needed anything before the school year resumed. Marcus intercepted the call. "She's actually been dealing with some serious health issues," I heard him explain smoothly. "We're not confident she'll be ready to return when school starts. She'll reach out when she's feeling up to it." I should have been alarmed. I should have demanded to speak with her myself. But I just felt relieved that Marcus was handling everything, that I didn't have to deal with any of it. Looking back now with absolute clarity, I can see exactly what he was orchestrating. Isolating me completely, ensuring nobody got close enough to ask real questions. He positioned himself as the barrier between me and everyone else, controlling every narrative, making certain everyone believed I was simply exhausted, simply stressed, simply needing rest and recovery. And all the while, every single morning, without fail, he was poisoning me systematically. By mid-August, I wasn't leaving our house anymore. Period. I'd go 4 or 5 days without showering. I'd wear the same oversized t-shirt and sweatpants for an entire week. I stopped caring about my appearance, my hygiene, what day of the week it was. Time became meaningless. Everything existed in this suffocating, heavy fog of exhaustion that never lifted, never improved. My father called Marcus directly on August 27th. "I haven't had a real conversation with my daughter in 6 weeks," I heard him say through the phone speaker, his voice tight with concern and rising anger. "I'm driving up to Atlanta this Saturday whether it's convenient or not," Marcus tried deflecting. "James, she's really not in good shape for visitors right now. Maybe postpone another couple weeks. I'll be there Saturday morning at a.m. Have the coffee ready." He disconnected. Marcus stood motionless in our kitchen, my phone gripped in his hand, his jaw visibly clenched. I watched him from the couch, my brain too foggy and clouded to understand why he looked so tense, so angry. "Your father's coming Saturday," he said finally, his voice controlled. "Okay," I whispered weakly. "You need to get yourself together. I don't want him thinking I'm neglecting you or something." "Okay." That night, Marcus made certain I showered. He helped me wash my hair because I lacked the physical energy to raise my arms above my head for that long. He helped me into fresh pajamas. He was gentle, attentive, careful, the picture of a devoted husband. Saturday morning arrived. August 30th, the day that transformed everything. The day that rescued my life. I woke up at 8:30 a.m., which felt impossibly early for me at that point. Marcus was already busy in the kitchen. I could smell fresh coffee brewing. I shuffled in slowly, my body feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds, my head stuffed with cotton. "Morning, baby," Marcus said, his voice strained and tight. "Your dad will be here any minute." He handed me my water glass and my pills. Take these quick, then let's get you dressed in real clothes. I took the pills and swallowed them automatically. It was so ingrained by then, so mechanical and routine. I didn't even glance at them anymore. 20 minutes later, I heard my father's car pulling into our driveway. Marcus visibly tensed. I noticed it in his shoulders, the way his hands gripped his coffee mug, just slightly too tight. But he smiled, arranged his face into his charming son-in-law expression, and walked to open the front door. James, great to see you, man. Marcus's voice was warm and welcoming. Come on in. Coffee's hot and ready. My father stepped inside, and his eyes immediately locked onto me. I was sitting at our kitchen table, wearing old leggings and a faded Howard University sweatshirt, my hair pulled back in a messy bun. I'd probably lost 20 pounds since he'd last seen me in person. I watched the shock register across his face, the way his expression crumbled for just a fraction of a second before he controlled it. Hey Daddy, I said softly. Attempting to smile, he crossed our kitchen in for long strides and pulled me into a tight embrace. Baby girl. God, I've missed you so much. I hugged him back, feeling unexpected tears forming in my eyes. I'd missed him too, even though I'd barely possessed the energy to consciously realize it. Let me pour you some coffee. James, Marcus said, already reaching for a clean mug. I've got it. My father's voice was notably cool. He released me and walked to the coffee maker himself, poured his own cup deliberately. The tension in our kitchen was thick and uncomfortable. I could sense it even through my mental fog. We all sat at the table together, the three of us. Marcus attempted making casual conversation, asking about my father's drive up from Savannah, discussing the weather forecast, mentioning the Falcons' preseason. My father gave brief, clipped responses, his eyes constantly returning to study me carefully. So what's been happening, Maya? He asked me directly, pointedly. Marcus says you haven't been feeling well for months now. Just tired, I repeated automatically. It's what I'd been conditioned to say for months, what Marcus had been telling everyone for months. Tired, my father repeated flatly, his tone skeptical. For 2 solid months? Through the entire summer? The school year really drained her, Marcus interjected quickly. She's been recovering, getting the rest she desperately needs. My father's eyes narrowed sharply. She doesn't look tired, Marcus. She looks sick. Seriously ill. We've been to her doctor. All her blood work came back completely normal. It's stress and exhaustion. According to the medical professionals, they were discussing me like I wasn't sitting right there at the table with them. I should have felt annoyed or insulted, but I was too exhausted to generate any emotional response. I just wanted to go back to bed and sleep. I'm okay, Daddy, I said quietly, my voice barely audible. Really? He didn't look even remotely convinced. He opened his mouth to say something else when his gaze landed on our kitchen counter. The pill bottle. The amber prescription bottle that Marcus had carelessly left sitting there after giving me my morning dose. My father stood up abruptly, walked directly to the counter, and picked up the bottle. Everything stopped. The entire world seemed to freeze. Marcus went completely rigid and still. I watched his face transform from relaxed to intensely alert in a split second, though he tried desperately to hide it. Forcing his expression to remain neutral and calm, my father turned the bottle slowly in his hands, reading the label carefully, and then his entire face changed dramatically. The color drained completely from it. His hands started visibly shaking. Maya, he said, his voice strange and tight and wrong. Who prescribed these medications to you? I frowned, genuinely confused. Nobody prescribed them. They're just supplements. Wellness, vitamins. Marcus got them for me through his work connections. My father's eyes snapped to Marcus with an expression I'd never seen before. These aren't supplements. Marcus stood up quickly. James, let me explain. What these are high-dose sedatives. My father's voice was rising now, shaking with fury and horror, mixed with benzodiazepines. This is an extremely dangerous combination. This could, he looked at me, his face filled with absolute terror. Baby, how long have you been taking these pills? 7 months, I said, my foggy brain struggling desperately to process what he was saying. Since April. They're energy supplements. These are not supplements. He was shouting now, his voice cracking. These are serious prescription medications. Who prescribed these? Maya, are you taking these every single day? Yes. Marcus gives them to me every morning with breakfast. My father spun on Marcus violently. What the hell is wrong with you? These aren't health supplements or vitamins. They're controlled substances. What are you doing to my daughter? Marcus held up both hands defensively. James, you're completely overreacting here. I must have gotten the bottles mixed up. My father cut him off sharply. This dosage for 7 months straight would cause severe physical dependency, major cognitive impairment, significant memory loss, complete personality changes. Jesus Christ, Marcus. He looked at me again, and I saw tears streaming down his face. We need to call 911 right now. Dad, I'm fine. You are not fine. You're being systematically poisoned. He pulled out his cell phone with trembling hands. If you won't call, I'm calling right now. Marcus moved then, fast and aggressive. He lunged toward my father, trying to grab the phone from his hands. James, stop it. You're scaring her unnecessarily. These are perfectly safe. Get away from me. My father shoved him back hard. Don't you dare touch me. Don't you dare. I sat frozen at the table, my compromised brain desperately trying to process what was unfolding. Poisoned, sedatives, 7 months. Nothing was making any sense. My father was already on the phone. Yes, I need an ambulance immediately at 1547 Peachtree Hills Avenue in Atlanta. My daughter has been taking high-dose sedatives and benzodiazepines for 7 months without her knowledge or consent. She needs emergency medical intervention. A pause. Yes, she's conscious, but extremely lethargic and confused. I'm a retired pharmacist. I know exactly what I'm looking at. Please hurry. Marcus just stood there motionless. The mask had completely fallen away. I looked at him and saw something in his face I'd never witnessed before. Something cold, something calculating, something caught. Marcus, I whispered. What did you give me? He didn't answer me. He just stared at my father, his jaw clenched tight, his hands balled into fists at his sides. The ambulance arrived within 12 minutes. Paramedics rushed through our front door, and my father immediately handed them the pill bottle. She's been taking these twice daily for 7 months straight, he told them urgently. She had no idea what they actually were. Her husband told her they were wellness supplements. One of the paramedics examined the bottle and his eyes went wide with alarm. Ma'am, we need to transport you to the emergency room immediately. Everything after that moment exists only in fragments in my memory. I remember being loaded onto a stretcher. I remember my father climbing into the ambulance with me, still clutching that bottle like evidence. I remember glancing back at our house and seeing Marcus standing motionless in the doorway, watching us leave, his face completely expressionless and blank. I remember the blindingly bright lights, medical staff moving rapidly around me, someone inserting an 4-line into my arm. Questions I couldn't fully comprehend or answer properly. How long have you been taking these medications? 7 months. Did you know what these were? No, my husband said they were vitamins for energy. Who prescribed them to you? Nobody. My husband just gave them to me every morning. I remember the attending physician, a black woman with compassionate eyes, looking down at me with deep concern etched across her face. Maya, your toxicology screening shows dangerously high levels of multiple controlled substances in your system. Your body is severely chemically dependent. We need to monitor you extremely carefully over the next several days. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I nodded weakly, but I didn't truly understand. Not yet. My brain was still too compromised, still too affected by whatever Marcus had been systematically feeding me for 7 months. My father stayed right beside me. He never left my side for a single moment. I remember him holding my hand tightly, tears streaming down his weathered face. I'm so sorry, baby, he kept repeating over and over. I should have driven up sooner. I should have known something was seriously wrong. It's not your fault, Daddy, I whispered. Even though I still couldn't fully grasp what had actually happened to me, the police arrived within hours. 2 detectives from the Atlanta Police Department. They asked me careful questions, took my detailed statement, took custody of the pill bottle from my father as evidence. They asked if Marcus had ever physically harmed me. I said no, never. They asked if I understood why he would give me these dangerous medications without my knowledge. I said no. I didn't understand any of this nightmare. We're going to need to search your residence, Mrs. Jackson, one detective explained. We'll need your written permission. Yes, absolutely, I agreed immediately. Whatever you need to do. They left to execute the search warrant. My father remained constantly by my bedside. The hospital kept me admitted for 5 days, carefully monitoring me, starting me on a medically supervised withdrawal protocol. The doctors explained that I couldn't just stop taking the medications abruptly. After 7 months of daily use, my body had become physically dependent on them. Stopping suddenly could trigger seizures, severe panic attacks, cardiac problems, even death. They had to wean me off gradually, methodically, safely. On the third day of my hospitalization, the detectives returned. They told me what their investigation had uncovered. Marcus's laptop search history revealed months of disturbing research. How to poison someone undetectably. What drugs cause permanent memory loss. What medications are difficult to trace in autopsies. How to create chemical dependency. How to make death appear like natural causes or accidental overdose. They discovered a life insurance policy Marcus had secretly taken out on me 11 months earlier. $2.5 million. He'd expertly forged my signature on all the documents. I'd never known it existed. They found extensive text messages on his phone. Messages to a woman named Tasha who worked at the same medical supply company. Messages that made me physically ill to read. She's deteriorating right on schedule. Won't be much longer now. You absolutely sure this will work without raising suspicion? Positive. By the time anyone figures anything out, it'll look like accidental overdose. She was mixing her own medications, trying to self-medicate. Nobody will suspect anything deliberate. I can't wait until we can finally be together openly without hiding. Soon, baby. I promise. Just a few more weeks and we're free. There were dozens more. Hundreds, actually. Planning their future together. My husband and this woman I'd never even heard of. The expensive trips they'd take with my insurance money. The luxury condo they'd purchase in Miami. The life they'd build together. All of it financed by my death. The detectives explained that Marcus's plan was to gradually increase my dosage over time until my body couldn't physically handle it anymore. Make it appear like I'd developed an accidental addiction to anxiety medications, that I'd taken too much by mistake one morning. With his extensive background in pharmaceutical sales, he knew precisely how to execute it, how to make it look completely believable, how to literally get away with murder. I listened to all of this from my hospital bed, and I felt absolutely nothing. I was too shocked, too drugged, too shattered to process any of it emotionally. My husband of 9 years had spent 7 months methodically killing me, and I'd smiled and thanked him for it every single morning. They arrested Marcus on the 4th day. Attempted murder, insurance fraud, illegal distribution of controlled substances, conspiracy. The officers told me he'd tried fleeing. They'd apprehended him at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport with a one-way ticket to Cancun, Mexico. Tasha was arrested simultaneously. She'd been actively helping him obtain the medications, using her company access to acquire pills that weren't tracked to any legitimate patient. She'd known exactly what Marcus was planning. The text messages proved her full knowledge and participation. I remained hospitalized for 8 days total. My father never left my side. He slept in the uncomfortable chair beside my bed every single night, held my hand when the withdrawal symptoms became unbearable, spoke with doctors and police, handled everything I couldn't handle myself. I almost lost you, he said, late one night, his voice breaking completely. If I hadn't driven up when I did, if I hadn't seen that bottle, if I hadn't recognized what those pills actually were. God, Maya, I almost lost my baby girl. But you didn't, I whispered back. You saved my life, Daddy. The withdrawal was absolutely hellish. Severe anxiety that made my heart race uncontrollably and my hands shake violently. Insomnia after months of being unable to stay awake. Nausea, splitting headaches, muscle pain throughout my entire body. The doctors warned me it would take months to fully eliminate the drugs from my system. Many more months to reverse the cognitive damage. They couldn't promise I'd ever completely recover. 7 months of high-dose sedatives and benzodiazepines had caused serious neurological damage, but I was alive. That's what mattered most. I was alive and Marcus was in jail where he belonged. They released me from the hospital with a strict medication schedule, mandatory therapy appointments, and regular follow-ups with specialists. My father took me directly to his house in Savannah. There was absolutely no way I was returning to that house in Atlanta. The house where my husband had poisoned me every single morning for 7 months straight. The first few weeks of recovery were the absolute hardest. My body didn't know how to function normally without the drugs it had become dependent on. I'd have severe panic attacks, seemingly out of nowhere, my heart pounding, unable to breathe properly, convinced I was dying. I couldn't sleep more than 90 minutes at a time. When I did manage to sleep, I had vivid nightmares. Marcus's face looming over me, the amber pill bottle, waking up, unable to move or scream, while he stood there smiling down at me. My father was endlessly patient. He'd wake up with me during the 3 a.m. panic attacks, talk me through the breathing exercises, remind me constantly that I was safe now. He'd sit with me during the sleepless nights, watching old movies at 4 in the morning. He'd make me eat when I had zero appetite, make me shower when I lacked the energy, make me keep fighting when all I wanted was to give up completely. The legal proceedings began. Marcus's attorney attempted negotiating a plea deal, claiming it was all a terrible misunderstanding, that Marcus had genuinely been trying to help me with stress and anxiety, that he'd accidentally given me the wrong medications by honest mistake, but the evidence against him was overwhelming and irrefutable. The computer search history, the text messages with Tasha, the forged insurance policy worth millions, the systematic isolation tactics. There was absolutely no way to explain any of it away as accidental. Tasha accepted a plea deal. She testified against Marcus in exchange for reduced sentencing. She told the court everything in explicit detail. How Marcus had approached her 9 months before he started giving me the pills. How he'd told her his marriage was dead, but he couldn't afford a divorce. How he'd promised her a future together if she helped him. How she'd used her company access to obtain the medications illegally. How she'd falsified inventory records to cover the missing pills. She cried dramatically on the witness stand, claimed she was deeply sorry, that she never truly believed he'd actually go through with it, that she'd been foolishly in love and made terrible choices. The prosecutor destroyed her testimony completely, showing the jury the text messages where she'd joked about what they'd buy with my insurance payout, where she'd asked Marcus impatiently if I was gone yet, where she'd complained it was taking too long. I sat in that courtroom and absorbed every horrific detail, every single element of how the man I'd loved had meticulously planned my death, every text message, casually arranging my murder, every search query about poisoning me without detection. I sat there and felt pure rage building inside me, burning away the fog and confusion. White-hot, righteous rage. Marcus took the stand in his own defense. Huge mistake. His attorney almost certainly advised against it, but Marcus's arrogance wouldn't allow him to stay silent. He genuinely believed he could charm and manipulate the jury, exactly like he'd charmed and manipulated me and everyone else his entire life. He claimed he loved me deeply, that he'd only wanted to help me relax and de-stress, that I'd been so overwhelmed with work, and he'd thought the medications would genuinely help me. He insisted he didn't know they were dangerous in that particular combination, that he'd made an honest mistake. But it absolutely wasn't attempted murder. The prosecutor asked him about the life insurance policy worth $2.5 million. Marcus claimed he'd discussed it with me, that I must have forgotten about it because of the medications affecting my memory. But they had forensic signature analysis. It was definitively forged. He'd signed my name himself. The prosecutor asked him about the explicit text messages with Tasha. Marcus claimed they'd been taken completely out of context, that he'd been venting frustrations about our marriage problems, but he'd never actually planned to harm me physically. The prosecutor asked him why, if he was simply trying to help me feel better. He'd researched undetectable poisoning methods and how to make death look accidental. Marcus didn't have any answer for that. He stuttered, backtracked, tried desperately to explain. The jury saw directly through every lie. It took them less than 5 hours to find him guilty on every single count. Attempted murder, insurance fraud, illegal distribution of controlled substances, conspiracy to commit murder, multiple counts of each charge. The judge sentenced him to 30 years in Georgia State Prison. No possibility of parole for at least 20 years. I was present in the courtroom when the sentence was read aloud. Marcus looked back at me one final time, and for just a brief second, I saw genuine fear in his eyes for the first time ever. Good. He should be terrified. He should feel a fraction of the terror I experienced when I realized what he'd done to me. Tasha received 10 years with her plea agreement. She'd be released while Marcus was still locked away. It didn't seem remotely fair, but at least there were real consequences. The divorce was finalized 4 months after Marcus's sentencing. I received everything. The house, which I immediately sold. The cars, our joint accounts, all of it. His family tried fighting it, claiming I was being vindictive and cruel. My attorney shut that down instantly. Their son had tried to murder me. I was entitled to every single penny. The insurance company voided the fraudulent policy Marcus had forged. They prosecuted him separately for the insurance fraud, added additional years to his sentence. Recovery took far longer than the trial itself. Months of intensive therapy, both physical and psychological rehabilitation. My brain had to relearn how to function without constant chemical sedation. My body had to remember what normal energy levels actually felt like. Some days were significantly better than others. 9 months after Marcus's arrest, I was functional again. Not perfect by any measure. I still have memory gaps from those months. He was drugging me. I still struggle with anxiety, trust issues, occasional nightmares. But I can get through each day without wanting to give up. I can have conversations without losing my train of thought completely. I can take care of myself independently. I moved into a small townhouse in Savannah, close to my father. Started seeing a trauma therapist twice weekly. Joined a support group for domestic violence survivors, because that's exactly what I am. Even though Marcus never once hit me, never screamed at me, never did any of the things people traditionally associate with abuse, he was killing me slowly, methodically, with a loving smile on his face. And I thanked him for it. Now, 20 months after that August morning when my father picked up that pill bottle and saved my life, I'm rebuilding from scratch. It's not the life I imagined having. I'm divorced, living alone, dealing with PTSD that might never fully disappear. But I'm alive. I'm healthy. I'm myself again. I volunteer now, teaching women about recognizing covert abuse. The kind that doesn't leave visible bruises. The kind that looks like a devoted husband, making you breakfast and giving you supplements. The kind that slowly erases you while everyone around you thinks everything is perfectly fine. Marcus writes me letters from prison regularly. I don't read them ever. My attorney reviews them, documents them for potential future legal proceedings. But I don't read them. I don't care what he has to say now. There's no apology that can fix what he did. No explanation that makes it make sense. He tried to kill me. He looked into my eyes every morning and handed me poison with a smile. Tasha gets released in 8 more years. Marcus won't be eligible for parole for 18 years after that. By the time he's released, I'll be in my 50s. I'll have built an entire new life. He'll be an old man who destroyed his entire future for insurance money and a woman who testified against him to save herself. My father and I had dinner together last night. Sitting on his porch watching the sunset over Savannah, he looked at me with tears in his eyes. I'm so incredibly proud of you, he said quietly, for surviving this, for rebuilding. You're the strongest person I've ever known. I'm not sure I feel strong most days. Most days I feel broken and scarred and angry. But I'm here. I'm fighting. I'm not letting what Marcus did define my entire future. So let me tell you what I learned from surviving this nightmare. Trust your instincts always. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone, not even someone you love, have complete control over your health, your medications, your body. Read labels carefully. Ask questions constantly. Don't blindly trust that someone who claims to love you actually has your best interests at heart. Watch for warning signs. Unexplained fatigue, memory problems, mood changes, isolation from friends and family, someone controlling your medical care without your full, informed understanding. Get second opinions. Involve people you trust completely. My father saved my life because he had the knowledge to recognize what those pills actually were. Because he knew my symptoms weren't normal. Because he insisted on visiting even when Marcus tried preventing it. If he hadn't come that specific day, I'd be dead. Marcus's plan would have succeeded perfectly. In a few more weeks, he would have increased my dosage one final time, and my body would have shut down completely. The medical examiner would have ruled it accidental overdose. Nobody would have suspected Marcus. He would have played the devastated widower, collected $2.5 million, and moved on with Tasha, but it didn't work. Because my father refused to be kept away. Because he picked up that bottle. Because he knew what he was looking at. I'm alive because of him. I'm here telling this story because of him. So trust your instincts. Protect yourself fiercely. Don't assume someone can't hurt you just because they say they love you. That wasn't love. Love doesn't systematically destroy the person they claim to cherish. Love doesn't research how to kill you without getting caught. Love doesn't forge your signature on life insurance policies and plan your murder with their mistress. I'm still learning what real love actually looks like, what healthy relationships look like, what trust looks like when it's not being weaponized against you. For now, I'm focusing entirely on myself, on healing, on rebuilding, on helping others recognize the signs I missed, on being here, being alive, being grateful for every single day Marcus tried to steal from me. If something I've shared resonates with you, if you're in a relationship where someone is controlling your health or medications or isolating you from others, please reach out for help immediately. Tell someone you trust. See a doctor independently. Don't wait until it's too late like I almost did. You deserve better. You deserve to be safe and healthy and free. And if someone tries taking that away from you, fight back, survive, get help. Make sure they face consequences. Marcus is sitting in prison right now. So is Tasha. They both destroyed their lives because they thought they could get away with killing me. They were wrong. I won. I'm Maya. And I survived. You can too.